said the Lions won a game.
And we are back, Great Lakes State Football, episode 26, bringing you everything football in the great state of Michigan. I am Vince.
I'm Kory, y'all, and it is football season officially.
This is Brett. It's football, baby. Let's go. MHSAA this week. And for Vince, it's MHSAA, not MHSAA. I know we've had some of our listeners critique me because of the way that you say it. So I'm just letting you know.
Wait, how do I say it?
You say MHSAA. It's MHSAA. You're the only one that I think I've ever heard say
MHSAA.
What follower critiqued him?
Someone was upset about this?
I'm not going to call him out on the air.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize this was a
I
problem.
thought it was like some random person. So.
Well, unfortunately, I'm not going to change my way. I also say MIAA. I don't say MIAA. So I won't be changing my ways anytime soon. I say CAAC. I don't say CAAC. So sorry, Brett.
Vince not changing his ways?
Just the way I am. I am stuck in my ways. I am a creature of habit, baby. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to get into football here. Like Kory said, we are very excited. Football is back. We are 2 weeks from camp here for high school football. College football has been in camp for some of them for 3-4 weeks now.
A month,
NFL's been in camp for like a week. So high school football, a lot of teams just had their scrimmages here at the end of the last week, and we are into week 1, game week here. So Great Lakes State football is officially entering our first season in season as a podcast and a quote unquote state of Michigan football news outlet, if you want to call us that. So as Brett mentioned in our last episode, we are planning on just being a one-stop shop for every level of football in the state of Michigan throughout the season. D3, NAIA, D2, MAC, high school, Big Ten, NFL, all of it, baby. So we're right there, hopefully going along for the ride, having a great time with you guys. So last episode 25, which we apologize. This episode was supposed to come out last week, and then we all ended up taking a Sunday off and having a good time. We don't really want to apologize for it, though. I think we enjoyed our week. So episode 25, we previewed high school and made some predictions, state championship predictions, talked about the Lions a little bit. So check out that last episode if you want to hear some of those conversations and thoughts in that preview. This episode is going to be strictly college football. So we're going to get into D3 NAIA, the MIAA specifically, and the MSFA, as well as D2 GLIAC. Mention the GMAC a little bit, and then we'll get into Division I with the MAC and Big Ten, and a couple other thoughts we'll add in here as well, and a few things we're excited about that we're going to be doing for this season. So to kick things off here, we are going to just for a moment talk high school, and that's just because this is week 1. And Brett's going to kind of explain, we mentioned a little bit in our last episode, some of the things we're going to do, but Brett's going to kind of recap and add some things here that we're going to be doing week by week. So Brett, I'll let you take us over here for some high school.
All right. So yeah, Vince, like you were saying, we want to be the catch-all for all sports or all football in the Great Lakes State. So every week we're going to be posting weekend viewing guide for all levels of football from MHSAA to the Lions. And with that, we're going to be posting our top 5 games for college of the week, and we'll be making our picks and also our top 5 games for MHSAA for the week. And so this week,
all strictly state of Michigan,
state of Michigan. And, there's a lot of opinions on what might be the top games of the week right now, just because, no one has any wins, no one has any losses. So everyone's team is undefeated in their own minds. But we picked these based on perennial powers versus perennial powers, teams that had a good season last year looking to build on it this year. Maybe a team that has a top quarterback that's coming back, et cetera. So like a Rockford, like East Grand Rapids, yes, that's a power versus a power, but East Grand Rapids has been down the last couple of years, so it wasn't our top game. So
Sorry, Coach Shattuck. But just to be clear, Coach Shattuck, if you're listening, we're very, very excited. We had him on as a guest. Very excited to see how you guys.
Brett and I will be there Friday.
Nice.
Oh, the game is on Friday.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was Thursday. We'll have to talk about that. But yeah, so it's going to be a good game. We're excited for it, but we don't think it's the top game in the state. But with that, we picked our 5 games of the week this week. I'm going to announce the picks, and we'll go through one by one who we think is going to win. So top 5 games of the week. I guess you know what? This is the first one. We're still getting used to this. I'll announce the game, then we'll make our picks afterwards, so it doesn't get all crazy. So our top game in the state, we got the Davison Cardinals versus it's the Cardinals, right? I believe it is versus the Clarkson Wolves. So
just say the names. Don't worry about the mascot.
I was wondering why you're throwing. You're correct though. Yeah, you are correct. 100%.
Yeah. So I'm gonna make the first pick. I think that Clarkson is gonna win this one.
I'm gonna say Davison is back in the saddle from a few years ago's success, and I'm gonna take Davison.
Vince,
was it Clarkston whose coach or Celine whose coach just retired and they got a new coach?
Clarkson.
It was Clarkston, right? They got a brand new coach this year. Celine, or excuse me, Davison.
Jesus
sorry. Davison, after winning a state title in 2019, being the runner-up in 2020, in 2021 went 5-4. Lost to Clarkston last year, first game of the year by 3 points. All 4 of their losses were to really good schools. They got beat by Detroit Catholic Central, Graham Blank, who was really good, and a very close 3-point loss to Lapeer to end the year. And they just missed the playoffs. I mean, they probably in most years would have gotten in at 5-4, but very competitive in Division I, as we always talk about. I think I'm going to go with Clarkston. I think this is going to be a really close game. It was a 3-point game last year, and Davison had a little bit of a down year, so I could see this game going either way. But I will make the pick here as Clarkston taking this one.
All right.
Vince just took 3.5 minutes to tell us that he was taking Clarkston.
Well, he thought about it.
You know what? We come on. We don't want to talk about. We're just gonna. You want me to just go right down, make it really boring? Davison, Clarkson.
I like it. Come on.
Isn't that the whole point of that's the whole point of a podcast?
So with this, we're gonna keep track of who wins and loses throughout all these picks over the course of the season. What are we wagering? What does the winner get?
The loser has to stand on a busy corner in their respected city with a sign that says, "I suck at picking high school football."
The loser has to get
we're picking college ball too. We're picking
the loser has to get a Great Lakes State football tattoo somewhere on their body.
Brett, are you gonna make this your first tattoo if you lose? I'm fine with it. I got several tattoos already, so I'm getting another one in December. I can just add this one to the slate if I lose.
Fine, you have to get it tattooed on your ass cheek.
I was just gonna say, get it on my ass. GLSF, baby.
All right, moving on to our next game.
Are we making this legit though? Is this legit bet?
Tattoo
of Great Lakes State football for the loser.
I'm probably gonna have to stab. Yeah, I might have to get some approval before that happens.
Coward's bet over here. Good Lord.
We'll
decide on air. We'll decide on air. We'll announce later. Apparently, we can't decide on this bet. Yeah. Go ahead, Brett.
Anyways, next game of the week: Grand Rapids West Catholic versus Edwardsburg. Edwardsburg they won the state championship last year, I believe.
Yeah.
No, they did not. They got pounded by.
They're in it.
Yeah. No, they were not. They got pounded by Hudsonville Unity Christian in the semifinal.
And then Hudsonville Union Christian played Chelsea.
Correct.
Okay.
Edwardsburg has not been in the state title since 2018. They beat Chelsea for the state title in 2018.
But the Eddies have gone 91-9 in the last 8 years with 1 state championship, 1 runner-up, and 6 trips to the semifinals.
They were on our high school list, weren't they? Like number 2 or 3? They were top 5. They were high up there.
I'll lead this off. I'm going to take the Eddies. I think they're going to continue their dominance, and they make a state championship run this year.
I'll go next. Landon Grove, who we also had on the podcast, who's leading the Grand Rapids West Catholic Falcons. Good luck to Coach Grove, but Edwardsburg, I gotta feel has a chip on their shoulder after getting destroyed in the semifinals last year. I think this is gonna be another really good game, but yeah, I'll go with Edwardsburg as well.
Sorry, I'm typing this one in.
Dead air.
So I am going to have to change it up.
Ooh.
West Catholic, they got a returning quarterback this year. They're running believe they're running the air raid offense. I think that's what Coach Grove had mentioned. I'm not sure Edwardsburg, being the location of the state there, I don't know how often they see passing offenses. But I'm going to go with West Catholic. Mine.
All right.
Moving on to the next game, we got New Lothrop versus Jackson Lumen Christi. A little side note to this game, Jackson Lumen Christi is joining the Catholic League next year.
I did know. Yeah, next fall, right? 2023.
Big news. Huge
big news. The CHSL is gaining Jackson Lumen Christi, which will be interesting. Lumen Christi has played in this Interstate 8 league for, I think, more than 10 years now. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to see how that goes. Actually, at one point, Lumen Christi was in the CAAC at one point.
What league do you think they'll be in the
one
like Flint Powers?
I don't. Oh, Flint Powers are they joined too? They were in the same league as Grand Blanc and Davison.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Probably the same one as Cranbrook, Kingswood, and Detroit Loyola. The smaller one, the D6, D7. Yeah, they crushed Loyola in the playoffs last year. Lumen Christi did.
I'm going Lumen Christi in my pick.
U of D, Jesuit, Divine Child, probably that league, I would guess.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Lumen Christi as well. Lumen Christi got beat by 1 point in the semifinals last year. New Lothrop is a powerhouse, but they had a bit of a down season last year. Lumen Christi, I just saw them. We scrimmaged them last week. They look pretty good. They're posed, I think, to make another run.
Were they wearing knee braces?
They weren't quite as, there was a few, but not quite to the degree that we used to see.
Then I'm gonna have to take Lumen Christi. Put me on the list with the Lumen boys.
We got a sweep here. We got a unanimous one for
they tend to bring it every year. I'm not gonna argue with that one.
Yeah, they do bring it every year, that's for sure. Next one, Rochester Adams versus Orchard Lake St. Mary's. I am going to take the bigger school in Adams.
I am also going to take Adams, bringing back their rock star quarterback, who's
and tight end, big tight end too.
Yeah, that tight end who just got an Alabama offer like 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I am also going to take Adams.
Yeah, I would love to be the outlier, but I got to take Adams too. I think St. Mary's is going to be battle tested heading into the D4 playoffs this year because they bumped down. They lost 3. Did you guys realize they went from Class A to Class B? They lost 300 students. That's why they went from D3 to D4. So, yeah, I'm looking at their enrollment right now. It's pretty crazy how much they dropped. So I think a game like Rochester Adams, and then they follow that up with Hudsonville in week 2, that's going to help them to play, make a run in the playoffs. But yeah, I think Rochester Adams for sure.
Another round of unanimous picks. Moving on to the last one, Warren Michigan Collegiate. We saw them with I think it was a freshman quarterback last year in the state finals versus Monroe St. Mary's Catholic. I'm going to go with Warren Michigan Collegiate here.
If I'm not mistaken, this was Kory's D6 state title pick as well, right?
Yes, Daddy.
Kory, are you going with Collegiate?
I'm going to go with Collegiate. I think that quarterback's a baller. He's tall and lengthy. Maybe put on a couple LBs, and he's just going to shred it up this year. So I'll go with Warren Michigan Collegiate.
Yeah, I think I am too. Monroe St. Mary Catholic obviously has had a lot of success in the last 10 years, but not so much in the last 3. So I think I'm going to go with Collegiate, especially with that quarterback.
Wow, what a boring set of picks there. From the first 2 games.
Just want to verify
for college. We'll mix it up.
Just want to verify, college. Brett. Rockford ECR is actually on Thursday, but my brother's first game is Thursday, so I'm going to have to go to Portland, Michigan to watch
the Raiders. Watch the Raiders.
The Red
if you
Raiders.
Want to go to that game, you're more than welcome to join.
That's fair. That's fair.
The Red Raiders.
You know they're playing.
They were playing Ovid Elsie, who actually was decent last year.
Ooh, so the Marauders.
Yeah.
Brett and his knowledge of high school mascots. I love it.
So that wraps up our picks for this week. We'll post this on our Twitter. Keep track of wins and losses throughout the whole year. It'll be fun. But one more thing to add with high school kicking off this week. Being the avid high school fans that we are, we just wanted to add one of our favorite parts about high school football. Each of us maybe I know Vince will be a little long-winded on this one, so I'm going to try and keep it shorter. But I think one of my favorite things about high school football is, when I was a player, it was the school. You could just feel it in the air when you woke up on a Friday morning. You dress up, all your friends at lunch, and then kind of getting serious after school and getting your mind right and hearing the band warm up, smelling the popcorn, seeing the cheerleaders, seeing your girlfriend up in the stands looking at you. That was one of my favorite things as a player. But now watching football, as a spectator watching high school football, I think one of my favorite things is just watching the team come together and the excitement in the community, being on the outside end in most games that I go to, I'm not part of the community. But just watching the whole community kind of get behind a team, and I think it's great. And all the passion that's behind it, it's nothing is better.
I will keep it short as well, and I'll second you, Brett. I think the passion, the raw emotion, and the camaraderie that you see within a community is pretty amazing. Like the one thing I always go back to is like when I was coaching is you would see these kids who tend to be like, you always have a handful of kids who are outliers within the school. They may not have friends that are athletes. They may not even really be an athlete, but they come out and play football, and how those kids, all kids feel included in the actual game, and the community rallies around all the kids. It's not just around specific kids. I think that's really cool to just see everybody belonging, everybody welcomed, everybody participating. It's just really fun to watch and really fun to be a part of. And as a coach, when I was a coach, it was probably my favorite thing, just to see the excitement from all the kids, and kids who necessarily like didn't play or wouldn't play or don't play any other sports. It was just really cool to see.
Yeah, as a coach, there's nothing better than coaching your guys up and then watching them take what you coach them up on all week and execute to perfection on a play. Obviously, they're going to make mistakes. Everyone, especially high school kids, they always make mistakes. But Kory, I remember coaching with Kory, and Kory would probably agree with me. Those few plays when you see them do what you coach them up what you coach them up on all week, and then they execute it and have a TFL or a sack, from a defensive perspective, or an interception because they, followed the technique or did what you coached them up on. There's just not a better feeling in the world to see a kid go out on the field and be successful after working with you all week. It's just.
Do you remember Mason Moberg in his last game at Grand
Ledgemans? He got a huge sack, right?
He played the whole game, and he had like 5 or 6 Mason Moberg.
Kory was about to cry. He was so excited. You were so
Mason
happy.
Moberg,
But guy, seriously, he was so happy.
Showed up every day, practiced hard, was like pretty. I mean, he was a good D tackle for us. He was a rotational guy,
but he wasn't one of our best players. But he was a kid who just came out ready to work every day.
And we started him the last game, and he had like 5 or 6 tackles, 2 or 3 TFLs.
Yeah,
and it was like,
and he was having so much fun.
It was one of the best moments of my coaching career. It was the last year I coached, actually.
Watching them be successful and have fun and rally around each other, man, there's not a better feeling. But as a player, yeah, man, Friday Night Lights, as Brett just described, there's nothing. I don't know. I miss it. I miss it as a player. It's fun as a coach. It's a lot of fun as a coach, but nothing beats those 3 or 4 years that you have, even freshman JV football, just to be with your boys, guys that you grew up with from a young age, and get together and go out and achieve a common goal on a Friday night and going through those routines. We used to watch the movie Friday Night Lights and eat mac and cheese at one of our teammates' house every single game day. We had the same routine, man. It was just
the emphasis on cheese in that mac and cheese recipe.
Oh yeah. Miss it a lot. It's good memories. It's memories that stick with you for life. Yeah. Keep you together for life. Absolutely. Well, Brett, was that the last thing you wanted to do for MHSAA?
Yeah, I think that concludes our MHSAA segment of the week. On
a very mushy but heartfelt. Yeah. No, seriously, man. I love high school football. We love high school football. Absolutely. So with that, we're going to move into D3 and NAIA here to kind of preview a few things. We're going to do a pick'em for the MIAA. We're not going to do pick'em for NAIA from the MSFA, the Mid-States Football Association. So I'll actually start out with NAIA here real quick. A couple things for news going into the NAIA season. We have 4 NAIA teams, if you're not aware, in the state of Michigan now, that have all really popped up within the last 10 years. We didn't have NAIA football before 2010, at least not for a long time, not in the current format of things. Siena Heights, Madonna, Lawrence Tech, and Concordia Ann Arbor are our 4 NAIA schools here that all compete in the same conference, Mid-States Football Association, which I believe is a football-only conference, if I remember correctly. Siena Heights, just wanted to mention, has a player, Cole Merlin, who's a linebacker, who was picked to be a preseason All-American. He was a 2-time NAIA All-American heading into the season, so potentially could be a 3-time All-American pick. We also want to mention really quick that Concordia went 9-2 last year, won the MSFA conference title, was picked in their coaches poll to win it again. There are 2 divisions in the MSFA, the Mid-East and the Midwest. Ironically, the Mid-East is where the 4 Michigan schools play. Madonna, Siena Heights, Lawrence Tech, and Concordia are all in that division. Concordia is actually preseason number 6 in the nation in NAIA right now.
Wow.
So, and Concordia won the NAIA baseball national title this spring. So Concordia has been doing quite well in the NAIA. So be interesting to see how those 4 teams do. And we'll kind of keep you updated with that. Unfortunately, we'd like to talk about NAIA probably a little bit more, but NAIA has just never been an area of football that we have had a lot of knowledge on, but we'd like to talk about everything in Michigan. So we'll continue to try and talk about NAIA as much as possible. D3 with that, let's get into the MIAA really quick. Just a couple points of news here in the last 2-3 weeks before we get into our picks for the MIAA. Hope. Some big news out of Hope. They first hired 2 new coaches. Jacob Studdard was hired as their, I believe, safeties coach, yes, and special teams coordinator. So he is a guy that will be coming over from Grand Valley. Actually, he was a graduate assistant in Grand Valley last season and helped out with special teams. Obviously, Grand Valley has a lot of success, so they will be very lucky to have him. And he's also a Grand Valley undergrad there as well. He played football at Grand Valley from 2015 and 2018. So great addition to their staff. And then the other addition to their staff is hits close to home for Kory, Brett, and I. Matt Bird, our former head coach at Grand Ledge, was just hired as their new wide receivers coach. So good luck to Coach Bird as he'll be leading the wide receivers group at Hope this fall. And the last bit of news for Hope is they just had a verbal commitment from a 3-star prospect, an offensive defensive lineman from Brighton, Jake Story, verbally committed to play at Hope College next fall. So it'll be interesting to see next year how that plays out. Obviously, a verbal commitment. I don't want to see it doesn't mean anything, but in the day in this day and age with the transfer portal,
it doesn't mean anything.
Correct. Yeah. So this Jake Story, I mean, he could have a hell of a season at Brighton this fall as a senior, and maybe he gets a Division I offer. I don't know. I don't want to besmirch Hope, but
he's signing as a dual sport though. He's going to play baseball too.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, but again,
that was one of the key things that why he committed to Hope. But yeah, I agree.
But he hasn't signed, he hasn't signed like a letter of intent or anything like that. So
who knows? Have a letter of intent at D3 anyway. So he can go
correct.
wherever he wants.
Right. And with transfer portal, he can do whatever he wants. So I hope things work out, but we'll see what happens there. I guess one other thing that we should mention too is there's a preseason All-American pick for Hope as well. Free safety Brady Howe was a D3 preseason All-American pick for them. Last bit of D3 news here has to do with another MIAA school out of Michigan here, Alma College. They hired 2 new coaches. Unfortunately, not a lot of news. They didn't put a press release on their website. Alma College kind of calling you out, but on your website, not a whole lot on these guys. I was trying to find information on them, but not a whole lot available. So this is all we got right now. But as Cooper O'Gara is the new D-line coach, according to a tweet that Alma College put out. He played at Concordia, Ann Arbor, NAIA school from 2016 to 2019, as well as coached there before he's coming to Alma. And they hired a new cornerbacks coach, Aaron Davis, who played at Alma from 2012 to 2015 and coached at Madonna before coming back to his alma mater. So good luck to those coaches. And we're going to go ahead and move here into the last part of our D3 talk with our Michigan Intercollegiate Athletic Association picks of the year. The media day, quote unquote media day. I guess they didn't really have one. I don't know if they ever have one for the MIAA. The GLIAC had one, but they did do a preseason coaches poll, which they do every year for the MIAA. So the preseason coaches poll had Hope winning it, followed up by Albion, Trine, Olivet, Adrian, Alma, and Kalamazoo is picked last. And then these are our picks. So just like with high school, like Brett mentioned, we're going to have an ongoing list of the teams that we pick throughout the year, for college football, just like with high school football. So we will do picks for the MIAA and all divisions of football throughout the season. But Kory and Brett and I are unanimous in our pick. We all picked Hope College to win the MIAA this year. Now, we were all split on our number 2 and number 3. Kory went with Olivet at number 2, Brett with Albion at number 2, and I went with Tri at number 2. And then basically we flip-flopped our number 2 and number 3. Kory had Tri at 3, Brett had Olivet at 3, and I had Albion at 3. 4 for Kory was Albion, 5 Adrian, 6 Alma, 7 Kalamazoo. Brett had Trine at 5, Adrian at 6. Right? No. Yeah. No, I did I count wrong there? Yeah, Kalamazoo at 7. No, I did that wrong. Adrian at 6. No, Adrian at 5, Kalamazoo at 6, Alma at 7. There's only 7 teams. Yeah. And then I had Olivet at 4, Adrian at 5, Kalamazoo 6, Alma 7. You guys have any
What's fun about the MIAA is it's a gauntlet. I mean, any year, normally one team takes it pretty easily, and then after that, it's just teams beating the crap out of each other for.
We talked about it back in the winter, dude. The only team that didn't have a winning record last year in the MIAA was Kalamazoo. I think every team was 5-5 or better in the MIAA, other than Kalamazoo.
Yep. So it'll be fun. It'll be a good season for them. I'm excited to pay more attention to it because, to be honest, I frankly don't really watch D3 football or pay that much, other than check the end of the season stuff.
Right. End of season.
I'm excited to follow it week in.
Yeah, weekend. Yeah, that'll be fun too.
Yep.
I agree.
All right.
I guess I didn't realize how many colleges there are. It's just one university in Trine.
Yeah. Yeah. And Trine used to be Tri-State College. They became Trine University in like the late 2000s. All right. Kory, are you going to take us here into D2, I believe?
Yeah. So the GLIAC had their D2 Media Day down in Detroit, where all teams were represented pretty well. I mean, it was cool. They had a coach from the university and 2 athletes, and they really just did round tables with every school and let them talk kind of about the season, how the team was looking and whatnot. So just referencing back to 2021, obviously Ferris State won the GLIAC with a 14-0 record, national champions, hell of a year. A crazy stat, Ferris State outscored opponents 316 to 159. So they almost doubled up their opponents.
That's absurd.
Just under doubled up. Everybody.
Almost. They were 2 points away.
Just off. So pretty nuts. Followed by Grand Valley State, Michigan Tech, Saginaw Valley. One thing that I have noticed now that we're following all these teams on social media is Ferris State's social media presence and their media team is pretty impressive. They're releasing interviews almost daily after practice, which is crazy because at Northwood, I mean, we might have 2 or 3 interviews through practices, but every single day, Ferris State's releasing something after practice, which is
hype train, baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Getting it going, trying to get to that D1 level, maybe. Who knows? But Vince, if you want to cast our GLIAC pick'em.
Yes, sir. Give me 1 second here.
All right. So GLIAC Media picks Ferris State, GV, Tech, SVSU, Northern Wayne, Davenport. Kind of interesting that the GLIAC Media picks for those because Northern Michigan has been at the bottom of the GLIAC for years at this point. So it's good to see them bumping up the chain. Davenport is in their 5th year of existence.
Does that surprise you guys that the media picked Davenport last?
It does because they've had talent. It's not like they haven't been bad. They get a lot of transfers.
They also signed the most players of any of the GLIAC schools. Didn't they sign 30 something guys? They had a ton of transfers.
I think it was more than that. I think it was.
It was a lot. It was a
50.
lot.
It was 50.
Which I don't know how that works. They must have split up their scholarships big time.
Well, don't quote me on this, but I went through and counted all their transfers. I want to say it was last year, maybe the COVID year. They had 28 transfers on their roster from various D1s, D2s, which is crazy.
I wonder why that they must feel like there's something about their school that I don't know. That's interesting. I wonder why.
Mel Tucker approach.
I guess. Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah. But if you want to zoom out a little bit, there we go. Perfect. So as you can see, Vince and I picked Ferris State, which I'll be honest, I don't see GV. I mean, GV could beat him. Anything can happen. But I think Malik Mitchell, we saw him play last year. He was elite last year, backing up Jared Barnhart. So, but anyway, I have Ferris State taking the GLIAC, followed by GVSU and Michigan Tech, normally the top three. I think Davenport is going to overperform, finish fourth, followed by SVSU because I hate them, Wayne State, and then Northern Michigan bringing up the rear. Brett's got GVSU winning, which he's a GVSU alum, so that is expected, followed by Ferris State, Michigan Tech, Wayne State, SVSU, Davenport, and Northern Michigan bringing up the rear. And then Vince also with Ferris State, GVSU, Tech in the top three, Saginaw Valley at 4, Davenport at 5, Wayne, and Northern Michigan. Brett, I'm just going to lay it on you here. Do you legitimately think Grand Valley can win the GLIAC, or are you taking Grand Valley because you are a GVSU Laker yourself?
Two things. It sounds like, number one, it sounds like Northern Michigan is taking a lot of it up the rear. So you know what you just said. And no, but honestly, I think GV has a good chance to win the GLIAC. I mean, their second game against Ferris last year really wasn't that close, but the Ferris GVSU rivalry in a way to me is a little bit like the Michigan State Michigan rivalry. You know, GV being Michigan, you know, the more history, they kind of think they can just show up and win, and Ferris State being the Michigan State, playing with like a chip on your shoulder, kind of not the younger brother, but just like nobody cares about or no one expects him to be good, which is different now, but just traditionally. But I think that's the edge that Anise brings is the kind of this little brother. But I think GV has a good chance of winning this year. Kate Peterson, who we also had on the podcast earlier this year, returning quarterback, pretty sure he's picked to be all GLIAC. They got a good running back this year. Great wide receivers. Defense should be pretty stellar too. I'm not sure where the game is when they play each other. I think it might be at Ferris this year. I believe it was at GV last year, but I really think that GV has a chance to win the GLIAC.
No, I think that's legitimate. What do you think, Vince? Do you think they have a shot or no?
I think they always have a shot. I mean, Grand Valley's Grand Valley. I mean, just like I liked Brett's analogy, his comparison there, because it's really not far off. I mean, just like Michigan's always Michigan. Like they always got dudes. Their historic program. I mean, Grand Valley has won the second or third most national titles of any D2 program. They've won 4 national titles. I think there's only 1 or 2 that have more titles than them in Division II. I think it's Valdosta and maybe Pittsburgh State in terms of current D2 schools, you know, because like South Dakota or North Dakota State won a bunch of D2 titles, but now they're FCS. So I don't know. Yeah, I think there's always a chance, but I went with Ferris because Ferris has Anise has lost twice to Grand Valley. He's like 10-2 or 11-2 in his time against Grand Valley and his time at Ferris. So I'm giving Anise I'm doing the prove me wrong thing. Prove me wrong, Matt Mitchell and Grand Valley. Prove me wrong. I mean, I until I see it, I just believe Ferris is going to continue to dominate. I don't know.
Nope, I'm right there with you. Which moves us into some more GLIAC news. So the GLIAC signed a contract with, actually a media rights deal with Flow Sports, making them, I believe, the first Division II conference to sign a media deal. And this one's pretty ridiculous. So they'll broadcast over 900 games annually across 21 sports. And this contract is through 2026. And what this does is it establishes a viewing system for the GLIAC, which is pretty awesome. I don't know if, and I mean, we watch a lot of GLIAC football and other sports. Brett's brother played, I played in college. So I know what my family had to go through to watch games. And then Vince actively watches games on a weekly basis because he's psychotic. No, I'm kidding. Because he loves football. But what this is going to do is make this viewing experience really just clean all around. They're saying a better interface, better recording, pretty much the whole interface in general with Flow Sports is going to be great. So that is through 2026, which is going to be pretty awesome to see. And then Vince, you may have some more details on this because I cannot find the tweet we posted about the new school at the GLIAC.
Roosevelt University.
Out of
Roosevelt
Chicago.
University
Yep,
out of Chicago will be joining the GLIAC, which I think is very bold because I've never heard of them. So at all.
I had never heard of them either. I'd never heard of them. They do have football, I believe.
Okay. I mean, what are your guys' thoughts?
I think it'll be.
Were they NAIA or were they D2?
Yes,
they were NAIA, yeah.
I think it's going to be really interesting on the recruiting side of things because traditionally, like Grand Valley and Ferris, a lot of those schools, both for basketball and football, they recruited out of Chicago and Northwest Indiana.
Northwood did a lot of recruiting out of Chicago.
It's going to be really interesting now that there's a D2 school in Chicago to see if they pull more of that Chicago talent. Now we're going to have to wait and see how good they are. I'm not sure how they've been in the past, so I'm assuming they're pretty competitive if they're jumping up division. So I think that's going to be interesting to watch.
So there is actually a D2 school right outside of Chicago that already does most of the sports, Lewis University, and they're actually pretty prominent in that area.
They're in the GLVC, with Indianapolis.
So from a basketball standpoint, I don't necessarily think this one will hurt anybody. I do think from a football standpoint, though, it'll hurt other sports.
Grand Valley's got a lot of Chicago.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess time will tell. They join next year, right?
Do we know before? 2023.
Yeah, I think so.
I think though. Yeah. Just to rewind it just a second with that Flow Sports, does anyone know how much a subscription costs to that?
It does not say. I was actually just looking on.
I saw it was an annual subscription service, so you're gonna have to pay obviously to use it. But
I think we're gonna have a GLSF ball subscription, just FYI. But
we'll use the account money, our like $20 that we have in our account.
If you want to donate to our subscription, you can in our.
So we'll share email and password on Twitter. I'm sure that they don't have licensing.
We will start
monitoring licensing.
We can start a Great Lakes State football OnlyFans, and we can live stream the game.
That's hey man, OnlyFans started as like
exactly
it was just supposed to be like a subscription to like broadcasting talents, anything. Then
we don't have to be naked. We'll just broadcast.
Then it basically became something much worse. So anyway, I think that was the only other thing I wanted to add with GLIAC. Were you going to talk about GMAC just really briefly?
I was.
Your boys have officially moved. Kory's alma mater, Northwood, has moved to the GMAC. They are starting their GMAC slate this fall. Just really quick, I wanted to do the GMAC preseason coaches poll, which essentially the GMAC now is all former GLIAC schools except for one. There's 9 football schools in the GLIAC. The only school out of those 9 that has never been in the GLIAC is Kentucky Wesleyan. The other 8 are all former GLIAC schools. They picked Findlay Findlay won the conference championship in the GMAC last year, and Findlay was picked to win it this year. Tiffin was picked number 2, Ashland number 3, Ohio Dominican 4, Hillsdale 5, Northwood 6, Kentucky Wesleyan 7, Lake Erie 8, and Walsh 9. So those are the GMAC picks. They are all Ohio schools except for Kentucky Wesleyan, and then Hillsdale and Northwood are both from Michigan.
Did you say Ohio Dominican?
Was picked number 4.
Okay. They're picked number 4. Ashland 2.
3. Ashland was 3. Findlay, Tiffin, Ashland, Ohio Dominican, Hillsdale, Northwood, Kentucky Wesleyan, Lake Erie, Walsh. In that order, were picked in that order. Yep.
Elderson brought it, or
they left. They either dropped football or they left the conference.
Rightfully so. They sucked.
They were horrible. They were Hillsdale destroyed them every year.
Isn't that Snoop Dogg's real name, Broadus or something?
Oh, maybe.
I have no idea.
I just think of Snoop Dogg whenever I hear that school. I don't know why.
Yeah, I just looked. They left the conference, so they're no longer in the conference. And then Malone is in the conference, but they dropped football. So
Malone sucks. We used to play that back in the day.
Oh, they were terrible. Yeah. So there's a whole bunch of non-football schools in the conference. The conference has like a dozen schools, but
it is. It's Calvin Cortazar Broadus Jr. That's Snoop Dogg's name.
Calvin, my son's name. Look at that.
Snoop Broadus Jr.
So I always think of Snoop Dogg. I've never heard of Alderson Broadus. Kind of weird.
God, they're terrible.
Kory, you want to take us into the MAC here?
Yeah. So
Vince's
Vince,
old dog.
Oh, that's fucked up.
That is.
Oh, I think he was just saying Calvin because I'm making connections all over the place.
I need another
All
drink.
right. Moving into the MAC, we did do our preseason rankings. I'll just touch on the 2021 rankings. So on the east side, Kent State won the MAC last year. And on the west side, Northern Illinois won the MAC last year. And then do you guys remember who won the MAC championship?
It was Northern Illinois lost right at the end.
Yeah.
To Kent State. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So,
Yeah. It was a controversial. It was a, no, I'm thinking, was that the bowl game that had the controversial ending or the MAC championship?
No, it was a bowl game that had the controversial ending with Rocky Lombardi.
Yeah. So Northern Illinois won it, didn't they? Yeah, they won it. They beat Kent State. Pretty sure.
Okay. Yeah. So Northern Illinois.
And then they lost to Coastal Carolina in the bowl game on Sunday.
And it was a super controversial ending.
Yeah. So Northern Illinois won it, and we will just run through our picks. Brett, if you want to lead the way on those.
Yeah. So obviously with the MAC, there's a lot of teams. So I don't know if we want to waste our time naming all of our picks through.
We don't need to.
I think we just name the winner of the East, the winner of the West, and then our overall champion.
Yep.
So the MAC coaches poll, they have Miami of Ohio winning the East and Northern Illinois winning the West once again with Rocky Lombardi, and they have NIU.
Is this his last year eligibility?
Yes. Yeah.
What is he, 40?
I know.
He's got to be a 5th or 6th year. Yeah, he's been around for a while. Because he was at Michigan State for at least 3 years. I think at least 3.
Yeah.
He's at least a 5th
year.
He's
at Northern Illinois, and I think he might got redshirted.
He's at least a 5th year senior.
He got a COVID year.
Right.
I'll tell you right now, he's a senior. Yep. But anyways, so Kory and I, Vince all made our picks. Kory agrees with coach's poll. He's got Miami winning the East, Central winning the West, and Central taking home the MAC championship crown. I think that'd be.
I just want to see your brother get it right.
Yeah.
Oh,
Another one
won a MAC championship ring.
Yeah, I think that was their last one. And then Central, or not Central. I have Miami of Ohio also winning the East, and I have Toledo actually winning the West. And I'm Toledo winning the MAC. I think Toledo is a dark horse to win the MAC. Their quarterback, he didn't start all last year, but former Detroit King guy, DeQuan Finn, you might recall the name. He was a hell of an athlete at Detroit King, and he's going to come into this year being the starting quarterback. But Jason Candle, the head coach, I think he's a really good coach. Toledo always has solid guys come in and come out. And also another blast from the past in the state of Michigan, Detroit King running back Penny Boone, who went to Maryland. He's now at Toledo playing with his former quarterback. So kind of cool. They got the quarterback running back duo once again in college. But I'm one of those people that get superstitious. Whenever you want a team to win something, personally, you don't pick them on paper. So that's why I picked Toledo to win it all, even though I'd like to see Central. Vince changing it up a little bit in the East. Vince has Kent State winning the East, and agreeing with Kory's got Central winning the West and also winning the MAC championship. Vince, Kory, any thoughts on your picks here?
So this will be my first year really watching MAC football like in depth. I've never, other than the Michigan teams, I haven't really watched like it of substance. So I'm excited, but Big C's over at CMU. We got to represent, and I think the Chippewas are going to take it just based on. I mean, who's the coach there now? McEwen?
McElwain?
Jim McElwain. I think Jim McElwain's a dog. He's been good. He's been successful. He's coached at a really high level, a bunch of different places. So, in McElwain, we trust.
I'm putting all my chips on Lou Nichols, baby. Lou Nichols. Ride him till we die. That's my thought process.
Wow,
that dude's a dog. I just think he's gonna.
Dogs.
I think he's gonna have another great season, man. He led the all of FBS and rushing yards last year. I'm putting my chips on Lou Nichols to bring CMU their first conference championship in 13 years. When was the Dan Lefevre? 2009.
No pun intended with putting your chips on the chips.
The last league title was in 2009.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought that was my junior year of high school when Dan Lefevre was that quarterback. Yeah. Go Chips. Fire up Chips. Fire up Chips, baby.
Go Chips.
Go Chips.
Fire up, baby.
Fire up.
So, additionally, from our picks, I'm going to highlight each of the state of Michigan teams quickly. We'll start out with Central. Like Vince said, one of their main strengths is Lou Nichols, leading rusher and all of FBS last year, returning in the backfield. And they also have their quarterback back, Daniel Richardson. They do have some holes to fill on the offensive line. They had 2 guys that got drafted in last year's NFL draft. So those are some big holes that they need to fill. But Central did win their bowl game over Washington State, which was an impressive win. Central's game got canceled in the Barstool Sports Bowl.
Yeah, I remember that.
They had it over, and they were a pretty sizable underdog to Washington State, and they ended up winning that game. It was kind of an ugly game in the rain. I remember watching that one, but that was a big win for the Chippewas, and seeing if they can carry over their momentum from last year to this year. Obviously, they have a pretty tough schedule with some non-cons at Oklahoma State and at Penn State. But nonetheless, that's what we're looking at. For the Chippewas, like Vince said, they haven't won their league title since 2009. So it'll be really neat if they could end up pulling home a ring this year, especially with Big C being on the team, like we mentioned.
Brett's brother, if you're not sure.
Yeah. Moving on to Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan has kind of an interesting roster this year. They had their starting quarterback from last year. His name is Ben Bryant. He decided to transfer back to Cincinnati, where he originally transferred in from. Now, I don't know if he transferred back to Cincinnati because he had a pretty good year for Eastern, and Cincinnati's quarterback Desmond Ridder, who's the same age, left for the NFL draft, and we actually just saw him have a game-winning pass against the Lions.
Yeah,
Jared Barnhart.
Yeah, to a Ferris State grad.
To Jared Barnhart, Ferris State grad. So they're going to have a new quarterback this year. Transfer name is Taylor Powell. He's from Troy. And they got one of the top running backs in the MAC. He was he's on the list for the running back of the year. I think it was Doak Walker finalist. Yep. Hassan Beydoun, so he is back in the backfield for the Eagles. But overall, I found it interesting. The Eagles have made 4 bowl games in the last 6 years, which is really impressive considering where the Eastern program was. They're the doormat of the MAC. They'd be lucky to win a game a year. So
they have the best recruiting. They have the highest recruiting grade in the MAC right now too.
Oh, is that right?
2023, yeah.
Yeah, so they got some momentum, but I guess really it seems like the last few years they've performed at the same level. So it'd be interesting to see if the Chris Creighton coach squad can kind of get above where they have been and hit that next level. But they haven't won a league title since 1987. So that's older than all of us on this podcast.
Juice.
But they play in a great field, so maybe that would throw some people off. They have a pretty favorable non-con schedule too. Really, their only tough game, they're playing at Louisiana, but Louisiana's coach just left for Florida, so I'm not sure who they replaced there. And then they also play at Arizona State, which is a team that Michigan State's played in the past, and it kind of gave Michigan State some fits in some games.
They got beat by him 2 years in a row with D'Antonio.
Yeah, they did. So that's all I got for the Eagles. Hoping that they can make a bowl this year. And then to wrap up the MAC, ending with Western Michigan. Western's got a lot of talent that they lost last year, primarily on offense. They lost Caleb Ellerby. I think they lost Sky Moore too to the NFL draft, wide receiver.
Yep.
And they actually, it looks like they have a freshman quarterback starting this year. And it's really interesting too. Their new offensive coordinator, his name is Jeff Thorne, father of Peyton Thorne, Michigan State quarterback. And they play Michigan State week 1. So you're going to have a father coaching against a son, not head to head because they're both on offense, but still kind of an interesting dynamic. But once again, Ladarius Jefferson is heading the backfield, Muskegon grad, and also Michigan State, former Michigan State Spartan. He's in the backfield for the Broncos. The Broncos had their last league title in 2016, back in the PJ Fleck era. They do have a pretty favorable schedule. Well, actually, they're pretty unfavorable schedule, I should say. They play at Michigan State, home against Pittsburgh, which is a really interesting home game for them.
Won at Pittsburgh last year.
Yeah, so now it's home against Pittsburgh. I'm surprised Pittsburgh signed up for a home and home with the MAC school, but that'd be a pretty neat game to go to. Then they go at San Jose State the next week. And then they're also at Central again this year. That's a MAC game on a Wednesday night or Tuesday night that I hope to make. So it's going to be tough go for the Broncos this season, in my opinion, especially on the offensive side of things. But they're going to have to lean on the running backs heavily. So the last bit I had for the MAC, I skipped over this when I was at Eastern, but Eastern actually, they signed a new video coordinator from Ferris, which is pretty neat that the guy got a pretty nice new gig down in Ypsilanti from Ferris. So it's another coach that you can add to it's not an official on-field coach, but it's still a coach in my book.
Tony and East Tree.
Yeah, and East Tree. They just keep growing like fruits. So that's all I had for the MAC. Moving on to the Big Ten. Vince, if you want to share our graphic here for the Big Ten, I'll walk through what we had here. So,
yep. Sorry. Here we go. All right.
I can see it now. So, Big Ten Media Day, awesome day down in Indy. 2 days worth of just nothing but football interviews. Everyone's got the hype train. Everyone's showing out in camp. Everyone's looking good. Everyone's feeling good. Everyone's got high hopes for the season. It's always a fun time. But at the Big Ten Media Day, the media all made their picks. Obviously, OSU was picked to win the East. I think OSU has been the unanimous pick for years. Big Ten Media Day and the Big Ten East. On the West is Wisconsin. And then picks-wise for Kory has Michigan winning the East, playing Iowa again in the Big Ten Championship, who's going to win the West. Wouldn't that be something, a rematch down in Indy, Michigan versus Iowa? Myself, I had Ohio State winning the East, and I had Wisconsin winning the West. I don't think that the Michigan win last year was a fluke over Ohio State. I have Michigan in second, but I just think Ohio State has so much firepower in offense. Their defense does have some questions, in my opinion. They got a new defensive coordinator this year. So I don't know. It could be similar to like maybe Michigan figured out something on their defense, like Ohio State figured out Don Brown. But they do have a new defensive coordinator, and their offensive line does have some holes too, with some guys that left for the NFL. But I still think that they're going to ultimately win the East. And in the West, it's hard to go against Wisconsin. I have Minnesota in second in the West.
I saw that you went with them.
I think that PJ Fleck is going to have a pretty solid team this year.
I picked them third. So
they have I forget his name. Here it is right here. Mo Ibrahim. He was a running back last year. He was projected to be all Big Ten, and he got hurt like the first or second game. And he's going to be back. And they also have their quarterback, Tanner Morgan. I believe this is his third year starting at quarterback. But they have 7 guys that they're replacing, 7 starters they're replacing on offense. But they got some good leaders on their offensive side of things. Then I have Ohio State winning it all. Vince, very similar to my picks, has OSU winning the East and Wisconsin winning the West, with the Buckeyes taking home the Big Ten championship. But Vince does have a little change up. He's got Michigan State second place in the Big Ten East, maybe a little bit of a homer pick. Anywho, I see we spelled Minnesota wrong in like 4 spots, but
you said what?
I copy and pasted it from one. So
Minneosta.
I just saw that. Yeah, it says Minneosta. That's right.
Anyways, any thoughts from you guys on our picks?
No, I think you're right, Brett. I think it's going to be a toss-up between. I mean, honestly, Ohio State's going to take the cake. I think the West is where the toss-up could be between Iowa, Wisconsin.
Yeah, I love how like all three of us have a very varied like West slate. Our standings for the West is like all over the place between the three of us, because it's like other than Northwestern Illinois, we all agree that they're bottom 2.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that can happen.
Yeah,
I mean, Illinois could be third place in the West, and it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, think about Nebraska though. They're fucking 2 touchdowns. There it is.
Nebraska.
I wasn't cussing the whole time, and then I just did it. But they were what? 4 possessions.
All of their losses were
by one score, right? One score.
And it was like 30 some points combined the whole season.
Yeah.
They were like, weren't they? Someone said that they overall outscored their opponents. They said they're the only team in modern college football to outscore their opponents and have a losing record. It was like something crazy stat, because the teams that they beat, they pounded whoever they beat, but they just couldn't finish the big games. I mean, they let them all slip away.
Lost to Michigan close.
They lost to MSU in overtime on an interception. Like
they lost to Oklahoma by 7, and they could have won that game. Lost to Michigan State in overtime. Pounded Northwestern. Lost to Michigan by 3, lost to Minnesota by 7, lost to Purdue by 5, lost to Ohio State by 9, lost to Wisconsin by 7, and then lost to Iowa by 7. They lost their last 6 games.
Wouldn't you just hate yourself?
Like, how frustrating. How frustrating. Like, just so frustrating. They were in almost pretty much every single game. Even Ohio State, they were right there. Right there. They couldn't figure it out. No.
I saw something this week that Scott Frost, their head coach, was raving about their new O-line coach, saying they got like 20 guys puking.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's like,
what a weird thing to brag about.
Stupid.
It's like when Michigan played UCF, when he was coaching at UCF back in like fall of 2016, and Michigan beat UCF by like 45 or 50 points. And Scott Frost in his interview said, "Yeah, well, we out-hit Michigan today."
Scott Frost is a twink.
He's a tool. But anyways, that's our pick 'em for the Big Ten. We'll believe we already posted this on our Twitter. Just to highlight Michigan and Michigan State going in the year. I mean, there's a lot of hype behind Michigan State this year. I will say one thing about this year compared to last year is last year Michigan and Michigan State were kind of behind the 8 ball their whole season. It's really easy to play when you're somewhat the underdog. This year, there's a little bit more expectation. You know, you're going to have to show up every game, continue to play with that fight, a chip on your shoulder. I hate that cliche, but I love it at the same time. I'm playing with the chip on your shoulder. But Michigan's going to have a really good offense this year. They got a lot of guys back, all their wide receivers back, quarterback back, 3 out of their 5 offensive linemen back. One of them they replaced with an All-American center transfer from Virginia, Olusegun Oluwatimi. Defense, there's a lot of holes, especially on the defensive end, and the corners, the defensive line with Hutch and Jabo going to the NFL. But like I said, I think the biggest question for Michigan this year is if they can continue to build on what they had last season. You know, it seems like the guys are playing together more as one. People are agreeing with each other. They're having fun together. It was just a really fun season to watch. And then their defense this year, you know, they got a new defensive coordinator, holes on defense. Can they step up to the task? You know, you read a lot of things in the preseason about hype, but it is all hype. I mean, no one's going to go into an interview and start bashing people. It's just frankly how it is. So it's, you know, every season you think you're going to be really good. So I guess we'll find out week 1. Well, maybe not week 1. Colorado State's not that good. But, you know, as the season progresses, we'll continue to see who the identity of Michigan is. And also, can Michigan beat the Buckeyes again? They're going down to Columbus. It's been almost been 1,000 days since Ohio State's beat Michigan. It'd be great if Michigan could tack on another 365 days. So that's all I got for the Wolverines.
I agree, Brett. I agree.
Keep it going. I love the 1,000-day counter because they didn't play in 2020. So
yeah.
Moving on to the Sparties. Sparties lost a lot on offense. They lost Kenneth Walker. They lost 3 guys on their offensive line. They lost Jalen Naylor, one of their starting wide receivers. Defense, they lost quite a bit too. So it's going to be interesting how the Sparties recover this year. Now, they did bring in a lot of transfers. Primarily, you know, one of the big ones that people are talking about is a guy named Amir Speed. He's a cornerback from Georgia. He's got a national championship on his belt. He's kind of been around in the playoffs, knows how things go. Secondly is Jarek Broussard, who Mel Tucker actually recruited to play at Colorado. He's from Cass Tech. And then he played a year at Colorado. He was all Pac-12, and now he's transferring to Michigan State. And he's also Jalen Berger, former 4-star in Wisconsin, transfer to Michigan State. So the Sparties are going to have a pretty loaded backfield. It's going to be interesting if one of those guys can pick up where Kenneth Walker left off. I think Kenneth Walker is a fantastic back. He's going to be an even better NFL player. But he also had a really good offensive line to run behind too. And also Michigan State's pass defense was atrocious last year.
Like one of the worst in the country.
Yeah, it was terrible. I'm pretty sure they fired that The cornerbacks coach, I think they have a cornerbacks coach and safeties coach. I'm pretty sure the cornerbacks coach got fired. So it'll be interesting to see if Michigan State can stop the pass this year. And when they played Michigan last year, Cade McNamara had almost 400 yards passing, which was more than he had in any other game that season. And in some instances, it was more than he had in 2 games combined. So it'll be interesting to see if the Sparties can stop the pass. They do have a pretty easy non-con. They got Western and Akron, and they go at Washington. So at Washington might be a tough game, but Washington was pretty rough last year. Michigan spanked them in the Big House. But that'll be a tough game just being on the West Coast. So any thoughts, Vince, Kory, on anything else, FBS?
I'm going to back you up with that. I think Michigan's offense picks up where they left off. They're even more talented this year than they were last year, losing Haskins. But defensively, I think that if we can pick up where we left off last year, we have a lot of young guys last year that were very good. I honestly think we could run back the Big Ten. That's why I picked them. As for Michigan State, I'm just going to be honest. They scared the living shit out of me. It's one of those things where on any given year, it's a close game. And I just think what Mel Tucker's doing is scary because I think that it could go anyway. I think bringing in all these transfers and just jumbling up a roster could tank a team, but it could also make them just a force. So depending on how it's coached and brought together. So I think it's going to be another great year of Big Ten football in the state of Michigan. I think it's going to be another competitive game. I mean, we've only seen maybe 1 or 2 blowouts in that Michigan State rivalry in our lifetimes. So it'd be good.
Vince, I wanted to second your comment on Michigan State's passing. They gave up 324.8 average yards passing per game, which ranked 130 out of 130. And
they were literally the worst in the country. Yeah.
Yeah, literally the worst.
Literally the worst.
One note I missed too, Michigan just picked up a grad transfer defensive end in the portal named Yabi Anoma. Former 5-star recruit, number 3 player in the nation. He went to Alabama, played as a freshman. He was on the all-freshman team and then got kicked out of school for skipping class and then went to Houston. Ended up not even playing football there. And he got due to COVID, and he also got kicked out the following year, and he ended up at UT Martin, which is an FCS school. But he was on number 10 on the Power Football or Pro Football Focus big board for the 2023 NFL Draft. So it's a guy with a lot of potential. He just got brought in on August 15th to Michigan, though. They've already had 2.5 weeks of practice.
Holy shit.
So, but they said he's on the roster. He's going to wear number 18 this year. But he has to he's going to be a graduate transfer, but he still has to get approved by NCAA because technically the last day for the transfer portal to be eligible was on May 9th. But apparently last year, Kentucky had a similar situation for a quarterback that transferred in. He actually transferred in on August 16th, and he got granted eligibility being a grad transfer. So I would say that it's a pretty good chance that he's eligible. He could be a really nice asset for Michigan defensive end room that needs some help.
All right, and that's going to wrap things pretty much up for this episode. Just before we sign off, Brett is going to give us his fun fact and recommendation of the week. And for those of you watching, maybe if you're listening, if you're wondering what the heck happened to Kory basically got stolen from us by his wife. So we'll leave it at that. So he will be out for the last few minutes of this episode. Go ahead, take us away, Brett.
All right. So my fun fact of the week, it's not really a trivia question. I normally have trivia. So it's actually good that Kory wasn't able to come back because I'm just going to give you a fact that I thought was really interesting. So in lieu of Hard Knocks going on, which we'll talk about next week when we get another episode under the Lions belt, the Lions did have an impressive win over Colts the other day. I thought they were going to blow it in the preseason on Saturday.
They had the longest losing streak in the preseason of all NFL teams, and they broke it.
Oh, was that really a fact?
They had the longest. Yeah, I got that update from Bleacher Report today. They had the longest ongoing preseason losing streak. They broke it today. I don't know how many. I don't know how many in a row it was, but I know that they've lost quite a few in a row. At least 2 years, probably.
That is pathetic.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, that's our Lions. We love them. But anyways, because of the Lions, this fun fact is circled around them. Dan Campbell specifically. So the fun fact is Dan Campbell's nickname in college was Dan Talica due to his love of Metallica. And then during his NFL career, when he started to grow his hair out, he was known as the Dude because he resembled Jeff Bridges from The Big Lebowski. Talk about two awesome nicknames to have.
And then Pat McAfee calls him MCDC, Motor City Dan Campbell.
Yeah, there's that too.
Because of ACDC.
You know you're cool when you just get all these cool nicknames all the time. Well, you know how it is. You get a new nickname about every time Connor McKinney sees you.
So that's not my fault. That's just people doing it to me.
But pretty cool. I'd love to play for Dan Campbell.
I would too.
Great guy.
Oh yeah.
But anywho, moving on to my recommendation of the week. Last night I watched the Manti Te'o documentary on Netflix. It was about 2 hours worth of documentary.
What's it called again?
Manti Te'o.
Oh, it's just his name.
Yeah, and it's really, really interesting. Essentially, they talk about his whole career going from Hawaii to Notre Dame, how he didn't even want to go to Notre Dame, but he felt like God was telling him to go to Notre Dame over USC. And then it talks about his career at Notre Dame and then what he's known for now with having the fake girlfriend, Catfish, which I didn't even realize the whole story behind it. But essentially, he was catfished by a guy that used to play quarterback at another Hawaii football team. And that guy went through a gender change and became a woman. And he was putting up fake pictures of some other woman from Hawaii with a Polynesian background and talking like through catfish to Manti. And it got to the point where she didn't know how to handle it anymore. So she ended up just saying, like, acting like she was her brother and saying that she died. And that's when ESPN blew up. And then it talks about how Deadspin actually was the media source that did the research and kind of broke the news that ESPN was wrong on the reporting and he never had a girlfriend. It was fake and all that jazz. And then it talked about his NFL career and how he was just so screwed up in his mind that he couldn't even like focus during games and he was just very depressed. And it's really interesting. I really recommend it. It's only about 2 hours. So if you got 2 hours to kill on any evening, highly recommend it. Manti Te'o documentary. It's
also not called Manti Te'o. The name of the documentary is Untold, the Girlfriend Who Didn't Exist.
Okay.
That's the name of the documentary.
Untold is a series. It's like Untold is a lot of different stories, and it's all called Untold. So the girlfriend that didn't exist. I thought it was Manti Te'o. I don't know. I just showed a picture of him.
So you liked it overall though? Thought it was worth watching?
Yeah, I thought it was worth watching. I had texted a couple other people about it too, and
I didn't realize he's out of the league. He hasn't. His contract expired with the Bears last January, 2021. So he didn't play. He didn't play last season with anybody.
Yeah, he was with the Chargers, who drafted him, and then the Saints, and then the Bears.
And the Bears, and they released him in January of 20. His contract expired in January 2021.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty solid career. 8 years in the NFL. I mean, most guys don't make it past 1 year. So that's
true.
But he really wasn't as productive as I think he could have been. I think he just got really screwed up mentally. I highly recommend it.
Well, all right. You heard it here. We're going to go ahead and wrap this thing up. Thank you for listening to episode 26. Please head over to Twitter and give us a follow at GLSF Ball, BALL, if you have not already. Then check us out on Instagram at Great Lakes State Football. Our video episodes of the podcast are on YouTube, Great Lakes State Football. And then obviously on Apple and Spotify, you can download the audio versions of those episodes. Thank you for listening. Great Lakes State Football, episode 26, college football preview. I'm Vince with co-host Brett and Kory. Kory is MIAA, or MIA. Geez, my damn double A's. And that's it. Go green. Go Chargers.
Football's back.